welcome to my video. So in this video, I'm gonna be talking about. So I went back on Gnome, and there's a good reason why I went back to Gnome. Is well, I don't really find KDE buggy or anything. I mean, it's a lot better than it used to be, but I just went back on Gnome because I really like the simplicity of Gnome. I like that it's very stable, it's very snappy. I like the direction where it's going. Yes, I do like, the customization in KDE, though I don't like their workspace workflow out of the box. I mean, you can change it, but I'm just saying, like, out of the box experience, it's not really my kind of workflow. Also, I don't like some things with KDE. I find that KDE has always been quite buggy in some regards. Not bad, but it's like, it's not perfect the way a lot of people will tend to point KDE as to be a very perfect desktop, but it's not. Neither does Gnome, but I do find Gnome works a lot better. If anybody's gonna use both these systems, like, you have to admit that Gnome is pretty stable system. Like, it's not buggy that much at all. Things do break, like the extensions sometimes break each release, but that's all right. That doesn't really hurt the workflow. Really, extensions just makes Gnome more useful in some ways. I mean, it's useful without extensions, but I'm just saying that I could use this without extensions as well. But I kind of need a system tray because some of the applications I use do require a system tray. But if I had applications that didn't need system trays at all, then I wouldn't really care for a system tray. But I do think that Gnome needs a system tray, but I ain't gotta hate it for not having it. They had a system tray before, but apparently the person that was maintaining the system tray of Gnome, basically, I don't think stopped maintaining or just left the project. I don't know what's the deal with that, but they took it out because it was pretty much old code and they want to keep it more clean. Like that, or no one was maintaining it, or they just took it out because they figured you don't really need it. I don't know. You kind of need it, but it'd be nice that we don't really need any system tray, though. I mean, like, if you use a lot of window managers, like DWM, it doesn't even come with a system tray. Neither does OpenBox. Doesn't even have a panel. TWM never had a system tray. So, like, if you think about, like, the OG, like, of Unix and X11, they never really had system trays on their desktop. You know what I mean? So to really, like, get mad at Gnome not having a system tray, if you really look back at, like, the original Unix, they never had system trays either. So, like, if you want to just put it into a philosophy of Unix, I find Gnome does follow a lot of, like, they keep it simple Unix philosophy. Compared to KDE, I find it falls up more into the footsteps of Windows. And that's another thing I want to talk about. KDE does feel like Windows, like, when it comes to, like, theming and customization and all that. And I used to like doing this a lot on Windows back in the day with Windows Blind and all that stuff. But it's fun to do it around KDE, like, but I don't know. I do like the color scheme. I wish that Gnome would have something like that, but other than that, I don't really. I really like something stable. I really like the dash of Gnome, but I like the extension dash to dock. I wish it would be integrated, like how Ubuntu has it integrated. I wish Gnome, out of the box, would have dash to dock integrated, because I think dash to dock actually makes dash really good, because it puts the trash bin on your thing, and anything you have mounted on your system, it'll show on the dash as well, which I consider pretty useful. And I like my dash to be visible. So that is my only really big gripe with Gnome. But other than that, like, I have no issue with Gnome. I never had any problems with it. It's always been stable with me. And I know there's people say, like, KDE works good with them. They never had any problems, no bugs, whatever. Like, it worked perfectly fine. And honestly, if that's your case, then good. Like, stick with it and have fun with it. Enjoy it. Like, honestly, I don't hate on people if they don't use the same desktop as me. If you use something that you find that works good for you and you enjoy it, that's great. I'm not a person to tell you what kind of distribution you should use. If you use what you use and you like it, that's good. I use NixOS because personally, to me, I just it works good for me. The way I do things with computers, the way I set up computers, the way I like to use computers, the way I think of like a philosophy in the way the developer is doing these kind of systems. I like Arch Linux in a lot of ways, like to keep it simple, lightweight. I think it's a pretty good distribution. Don't get me wrong, I use it for many years, but I do like the immutable system of NixOS. I like how they implement it like over other like desktops that does immutable systems. I like NixOS for their package manager. I think they have a very good package manager, and they have a lot of packages, to be honest. I like to set up the system with a configuration file, which I can share among other computers. So it makes install and configure my whole base system out of the box after installation with a configuration file. To me, it saves up a lot of time. It does take a while to install NixOS, and I say this a lot of times, but with the configuration file, it does set up your whole system quite easily. And basically, I just copy my dots to my home directory, and my system is pretty much set up the way I like it. I just like the rollback system. Like right now, I switched over to the unstable channel. So basically, I'm on the rolling of NixOS, and I was using 6.1 KDE. I find I don't like it. I actually like 6.0 KDE better. It works a lot better. I don't really like this input capture thing. I know that Gnome has it too, but it's not as annoying as KDE because like once you put share device, it leaves you alone. But KDE, it just constantly pops up all the time. But it's not as annoying as KDE. Like Gnome does that too as well. But I don't know what this input capture portal thing. I think it's something new or something. I don't know. I don't really know. I don't look into that because I don't really care for remote stuff, remote desktop. The only thing I do use that's kind of like remote connection is basically Steam Play on Steam, where I stream my game from my gaming desktop to my Dell computer, which it has a big 50-inch display, which I use to watch. It's just my couch setup pretty much, and I basically stream my game from my gaming PC onto this box because obviously it's not that powerful to run. It can probably run Final Fantasy 14, but if I want a better experience, I have a better hardware on the gaming PC, which also has a RX 7600 GPU, which is not a bad GPU. So that's the reason why I went back to Gnome. But everybody can use what they like. I mean, I know there's people that could be happy that I'm back on Gnome. There's people that could be upset because I'm not using KDE anymore. People are probably upset that I don't really use Arch much anymore and I use NixOS now. I mean, whatever, man. Like I don't get upset. I don't get upset what you guys do with your computer, right? Why should you get mad at me or even why sub my channel because of certain things I use? Sub me for what I talk about. Don't sub me for what I use. Like if I use a certain Windows manager or if I use a certain desktop, I'm gonna sub a guy because he uses the same desktop as me. Don't do that. Please sub me for my content. Don't sub me for what I use on my computer. And don't hate me for what I use on my computer either. If you don't like it, that's fine. It's not your computer. It's my computer. So like respect what I use, just like I respect what you use, right? And I notice this a lot with the community. I used to be like that myself. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I am a Linux nerd myself. Been there, done it. I mean, I try not to be like that, and I still kind of do it sometimes. Like I tell people, I'll use this. Come on, like try it out. You gotta try it. You gotta try this system out. You gotta try this system out. You gotta try NixOS. You gotta try it out. It's great. And I try not to be like that, but it is a pretty good distribution. And like especially like friends I talk to online, like. I like them to use the same kind of system as me because that way, like something goes wrong, like we can troubleshoot things together as a community, and I like to use the same system. But what else? Yeah, I could be like that. I could be like, oh, you're I go on Gnome and be like, oh, you're still using KDE. Like, why don't you try out Gnome again? I mean, I shouldn't be like that. That's not. It's not nice. But I can understand like how people are. But I just find like don't be like that. Really, it's just respect what people use. Someone wants to use KDE and they like it, then let them use KDE and like it. Like that's what Linux is all about. Is really just to use what you want, have the freedom to just take control of your system and just play around with it, tinker with it, and just set up the way you want to set it up. And that's what's unique about Linux is that you can make it yours. You know what I mean? So like, don't try to want everybody to be like you. Try to be yourself and be creative. That's why I like the community Unix porn because I like to see a lot of creative desktops, people that they do their own like configuration desktops, and some people do some really nice desktops. And I like seeing very uniqueness. I don't like to see like, I've seen this before, I've seen that before, and sometimes like my setup is like very basic because I use a default GNOME theme. I just use Blur my shell extension because I like the blur of the like the top bar, and I use dash to dock extension, and I also use app indicator for system tray because I do require a system tray to have because I do use the system tray a bit, not like a lot. I use it mostly for OBS. Other than that, like I wouldn't really care about the system tray, but with OBS, I kind of use it because I don't like to always open the application up to stop and record video. I can just do it from the system tray. I wish GNOME would have some kind of system tray or background app indicator that we can use on GNOME, but maybe in the future they'll probably figure something out. But I just that's my only gripe with GNOME is not having a system tray. That's why I use KDE. But I realize I don't really use the system tray that often, to be honest. A lot of times I am using the system tray is these like for Bluetooth sound, and that's already there on GNOME anyways, integrated. So you know what I mean? Like that Bluetooth system tray like icon would always like disappear on KDE. That was a bug for me. Like it always would be like not visible. So I have to go like in settings all the time to actually control my Bluetooth. I couldn't do it from here. Like here, like it's all integrated with GNOME, and I like that. Like it tells you what's connected and what like it doesn't disappear. Like Katie kind of has these little bugs, you know what I mean? Like, and people don't want to admit that Katie has bugs, but it does. It. I just find GNOME like when I went on GNOME. Back in GNOME, I'm just like, wow, man. Applications load up really fast, snappy. It just feels like a really nice, smooth flow. Like switching between different workspace, rolling back. You know what I mean? Like switching play, like just like doing stuff like that. Like I just find that the workspace like it has a very nice flow to it. It just feels very like the transition of moving around applications. It's very clean. It's very minimalistic. It's very minimal. I don't know how you say it, but it's just very, very, you know, it just works really good. Like that's one thing I like about GNOME. Things work really well. Like it's really smooth. Like it just like Katie kind of feels clunky in some ways. Like it works good, but it's just the way the desktop is. It feels kind of clunky for me. Like I don't know. Like it's hard to explain. I don't know how to explain it, but it's just the feeling of the desktop. Like when you're just loading up applications, when you're minimizing stuff, when you're alt tab into a different application or just go to a different workspace. Like the workflow of the system. Like I find GNOME feels a lot better than KDE. I'm not saying KDE is bad. I'm just saying it feels better on GNOME. I see a difference, a slightly better difference, and that little slightly better difference makes a better difference for me. Also, what else I want to talk about? GNOME 47. They're gonna try to take out all the Xorg or X11 dependencies and all that. They're trying to get that out of the system, and Gnome's got to run on native Wayland, like native Wayland. There's no like, there's nothing like there's. It's just purely Wayland, run on pure Wayland, and I like that direction. Okay, like I think that moving away from Xorg is a good thing, and not everybody's gonna like that, but to me, like think about it, nice clean GNOME, no extra bloat of that dependency of Xorg. You just have simply Wayland, and you have a nice clean system and it works really good, and it's less dependencies, so it makes the system a lot less bloated with dependencies that you don't really need because you're not really using it. And I think that the direction of GNOME is going really good, and it's actually, I think the desktop works really well. Like, it might not have a system tray, it might take some features out, but my God, man, GNOME works very stable. It has this Mac OS kind of feel to it in a way. I kind of like that a lot as well. And it's actually, I kind of like it better than Mac OS in some ways, but it does feel like Mac a lot. Like, it has like a Mac sort of like style to it. That's not a bad thing. I think Mac OS is not really a bad desktop. I think it's very nice desktop too as well. I like them both actually, but like using Mac OS and using GNOME, I don't feel like they're very similar, so I kind of like that. It feels more like Mac than it does to Windows. Like when I go on KDE, it feels more like Windows, and I don't really care for Windows too much. Like I don't mind like a Mac interface or something similar to a Mac OS, because Mac it's a Unix system. So I mean, it makes more sense to be more like a Mac than Windows, because Windows is not Unix, and I don't know. I don't like Windows. I actually hate Windows more than anything. I do have a computer that uses Mac OS. I do use Mac OS once in a while, but not like hardcore. But I do have a Mac computer that runs the latest Mac OS 14, and I think it's 14 or 15. I don't know. I don't really use it that much though. But I mean, I do have a system that can use the latest Mac. I do have a Mac M1. Yeah. So I'm using the latest kernels. Yeah, I don't know why it's doing that. So so right here, the latest kernel is 6.9.9. Nice, almost Linux 7. Almost Linux 7. We're like Linux 699. 699. What a version number. So yeah. And I am using the latest NixOS 24.11. So this is like the release that's going to be coming out this fall. I'm already using it now. It's still it's like in a testing phase right now, and that's what basically rolling is with NixOS, is that you're testing out what's going to be the next release of NixOS. Because NixOS does it every 6 month base release, like kind of like what Ubuntu does, kind of like what OpenBSD does. So I mean, like NixOS does that too, but NixOS also gives you like the ability to use a rolling. That way you are always with the latest software, like the latest GNOME, the latest KDE, the latest software in general. So latest desktop, latest software, and I always use the latest package, kernel package for the kernel. Even if I was unstable, I always use the latest package for the Linux kernel. So, but anyways, I'm just really happy to be using GNOME again, and I think it works really well. And yeah, I'm not gonna go back on KDE. Like I don't hate KDE. Like I want people to know that I don't hate it. I actually really like KDE. I think it's a good desktop environment. But if I'm always going back to GNOME and I'm missing GNOME, I really do like GNOME. I'm a Gnome. I mean, what can I say? I like GNOME. I used GNOME for a long time. It's always been one of my favorite desktop environment. I mean, I like KDE too, but like I said, I like Gnome for a lot of reasons. I like it because it works really well, and I like the workspace switcher, and I like the way the like just the workflow of the system. I think it just works really good, and I'm more used to GNOME, and I don't know. Maybe I just like very minimal stuff. And I think KD is just too much to it. Like there's too much with KD. It's too much with KD. I don't know. It's too much for me. Not for everybody, but it's just too much for me. I like something more minimalistic, and I think GNOME fits me quite well. Anyways, guys, that's just my little rant. I'm still enjoying NixOS. I love NixOS. I don't think about the drama anymore. I don't care about the drama. I don't care about any Linux drama bullshit, woke bullshit. I ignore it all. I know I don't agree with it. I don't like it. I wish it would never exist, but it will, and it probably will get worse in the future. I'll just ignore it because that's how I cope with things. I guess that's how most of us do cope with things. But I'm not gonna stop using NixOS because I like it. You know, I really like it, and like I'm not gonna stop a system from drama. You know, I like NixOS as long as it doesn't push any agendas on me using the system. Then it's fine, right? And also, I got my own community for NixOS, so that way I can just talk to these people, and you know, that's how I do my NixOS, and that's how I stick with my own community. I don't need be a part of that part of NixOS community. I don't want to be a part of it anyways. Well, anyways, guys, once again, thanks for the watch. Have a good one. Cheers.